A title. Some older victims may want to stay with their spouse or partner.
Some of the victims that we might be working with have been in a relationship with the person abusing them for a long time. So a person might have been married to the abuser for 50 or 60 years.
Vicki Ybanez, Executive Director, Red Wind Consulting, Incorporated.
I would think it would be incredibly difficult at a late time in their life to be thinking about living without their intimate partner. And so pushing toward ending a relationship or trying to hold their partner accountable might be a very difficult decision for them to make. And then they might have a value system that says that they have to stay in that relationship. So we have to work in helping them to balance their personal value systems with the options that are available to them.
LaTrice Hogan, Consultant, formerly Director, Milwaukee Women's Center.
Oftentimes, those are the individuals that we're providing in-home services for. They're there and they're not going to leave. So we do not have conversations about you should leave. You've been in this too long. When will you know it's enough? We never have those type of discussions. We talk about, so how are you going to survive in this situation? What do you need to be safe in? Since you made this decision, what is it that you need us to do? How can we help you down this path? Because we know that's a long-term relationship. Some of our older women and older men have been married since they were 16 years old, 15 years old. All they know is each other. All they know is their family systems. And so I'm going to do what? This is essentially my best friend. And I know that may sound crazy for some people, but I've heard victims tell me, I can't leave my best friend. They're sick and they have problems, but I love them and we've been together through thick and thin. And this is just another obstacle. It's a recurring obstacle, but it's one I'm willing to deal with. So we have to be willing to hear that, not judge it, and create a safety plan so they can be safe in the decision that they're making.
Karla Vierthaler, Lifespan Project Manager, National Sexual Violence Resource Center.
Also what we see is sexual violence within an intimate partner relationship. And this could be continued violence that has lasted the length of the marriage, or it could be something that begins later in life. And a lot of times we see there's a sense of entitlement of partners to engage in sexual activity with their spouse. But we also see when it's occurring a little bit later on and it hasn't happened throughout the relationship, sometimes different dynamics come to play, whereas perhaps the partner has some sort of age-related mental health issue, so Alzheimer's or dementia, and they are no longer able to consent, and the individual continues having a sexual relationship with them, sometimes against their will, because they're not really sure what is happening in that relationship.
Sue Hall Dreher, Consultant, formerly Director, Sexual Assault Support Services of Midcoast, Maine.
Well, I think particularly in older adults, we're asking a lot or expecting a lot, that somebody will step out and leave, more likely than not, depending on where they live, particularly in rural states. The option to leave is not great. For some people, in their mind, it's giving up their home, their pets, their farm, their car, their whatever their economic resources are, their community, whether it be faith-based or the neighborhood or their family. So helping them figure out what it is they need and want to do is important. The reality is most people want the pain to stop. They want the violence to stop. In my experience with older adults, particularly if they're living in the environment where they're being abused, there's a high percentage living with their rapist. And it's one of the hardest things to do. It's hard enough to admit that when you've been in a long-term relationship, the person that's supposed to respect you and revere you is not doing it. And then to speak up and say that person's also a rapist is impossible. That's not fair. It's not impossible. I think it's probably one of the most difficult and challenging things to do, and it's usually one of the very last disclosures that will ever come out. And it's usually if the person has left and found safety and started to find what they need to do. You know, we have to work with the resiliency of the survivors. And I think sometimes in our advocate work, we only see what's not working and what they may or may not have done. And I think it's a stronger model if we recognize resiliency and strength. Every adult I know, older adult, has a rich history. Many have a painful past and a present, and trying to figure that out with them is the best we can do.
Logos appear. NCALL, www.ncall.us. Terra Nova Films, terranova.org. Funded by the U.S. Department of Justice, Office on Violence Against Women and Elder Justice Initiative. www.justice.gov/elderjustice. A disclaimer. This project was supported by grant number 2014 AXTA K050, awarded by the Office on Violence Against Women and by the Elder Justice Initiative, U.S. Department of Justice. The opinions, findings, conclusions, and recommendations expressed in this program are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Justice, Office on Violence Against Women, or the Elder Justice Initiative.